The Assyrian siege engine was one of the greatest innovations carried out by the Assyrians. Following the Bronze Age collapse, many of the surviving city-states built strong defences and hoped that the besieging armies would have to leave and tend to their harvests. However, the Assyrians had the world's first professional army, and so, as a result, were also the first to drastically overhaul the tactics used during sieges. The basic design of an Assyrian siege engine was that it was made of strong wood and built so that it could support a small contingent of archers on a tower at the front. The reason for this was so that the archers could provide cover to the men working below, allowing them to push the siege engine into position. Underneath this tower was a large hole with a spear or battering ram poking out of it. This was the mechanism that was used to undermine the walls of great cities, thus allowing the Assyrian army to breach the city in record time. Although at first the idea of using a spear to literally chip away at a city's fortification seems a bit pointless, one has to remember that the materials being used at the time to create these structures were little more than mud bricks. Mud bricks, which although a pliable and revolutionary building material in its own right, were still nothing more than compressed mud. When compared to that of stone, the structural integrity of a mud brick versus a stone brick is fairly apparent. As such, the spear on the Assyrian siege engine could literally chip away at enemies' fortifications until the wall fell in on itself. Now, the problem with building a machine of war out of wood is wood has a tendency to catch on fire. As such, these new siege engines would become prime targets for foes with incendiary weapons. To counter this, the Assyrians simply covered their siege machines with animal hides. This deflected most of the incendiary projectiles and also provided some decent protection to the crew inside at the same time. Defenders of the cities of the east still had one major trump card which they thought would keep them safe from the Assyrians. This was the fact that majority, if not all the cities of the time, had at least one nearby river, thus naturally protecting them, especially if the city's walls were built right up to the banks. The Assyrians countered this by literally making on-the-spot inflatable rafts from sheepskins and floating the siege engine to the enemy walls. Running out of options, the defenders of these cities that dared to rise up against the Assyrians decided that their only course of action was to simply reinforce their walls. The Assyrians responded to this problem by simply building even bigger siege engines, which could support more archers on towers and do more damage to the mud brick defences. Eventually, the fact that they simply couldn't hold out against the Assyrians and the brutal aftermath of an assault on a rebel city resulted in many of the cities simply surrendering once an Assyrian army appeared on the horizon. The Assyrian siege engine had revolutionized siege warfare to the point where even the mere sight of one could result in the surrender of a city. With this new weapon, the Assyrians would found one of the largest empires of the ancient world, one that was both brutal and unimaginatively inventive at the same time. Thank you for watching and listening to our videos. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe if you've enjoyed. All sources are listed and linked in the description below. I've been the Ancient History Guy, and as always, I'll be seeing you later.